All right, certainly making you think about eternity this week. And three of our producing team that's with us here in the studio are responsible for the series this week: Michael Wright, Magdelene John, and Denise Lodde. It's quite a topic, Mike. Why the inspiration to do a topic like this?
Well, it's not like I set out to, hey, let's do a series on death and heaven and hell, because these are tough topics. I mean, not a lot of people want to talk about them. But a friend of mine loaned me the book The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis, and I'm a very visual person. And when I started reading this book, the metaphors just started just jumping into my head about what heaven could look like and what hell could look like. And I found it really interesting, so I thought, wouldn't it be great if this was a series and we started discussing these things and brought it to different experts, different people on the streets, anybody that would want to talk about it. So I just thought it was a really worthwhile topic to delve into and to see and to get some answers so that people could sort of start understanding what it's all about.
So today was the kickoff of the 4-part series, and that revolves around death, something that everyone on the planet will eventually face. So why at this point of the year, Denise, would you want to put this series?
Well, we just thought about, when we were talking about doing this series, Maggie and I were saying, it started off as a joke. Oh, what if we did something on hell, because it's just a topic that can immediately shut down a conversation no one wants to talk about. So we thought, well, heaven and hell, and then it turned into eternity and the Great Divorce, and it just became clear to us as we were discussing it that Easter is the perfect time to do a series like this, because this is where these questions, the crossroads of, eternity and faith, come right into, into being. This what Jesus did on the cross, what we're celebrating on Good Friday. What does that actually mean in eternity, in the face of eternity? So that's why we really wanted to break it down, and we're really exploring each day, what is death, what is heaven, what is hell, what is resurrection. And we hope to really create a full picture for people when they're watching this, to understand what Easter really is all about and why it matters.
Right.
Because Maggie, like we said, we all face death eventually, but really, how many of us have hope for anything after death?
Yeah, and how many of us actually understand what happens? I think that's the one thing that we found, is that there's so many myths when it comes to heaven and hell and even death. And just kind of, and for us too, I think we all
learned a lot.
Yeah, we all did. We all had different ideas of what hell would be like, what heaven would be like. So it was interesting for us to learn as well about all of these different aspects of eternity.
Well, Mike, as people watch the series this week, and we'll also, have it available online and however, but what are you hoping that someone's going to come away with at the end of the week?
Yeah, I think the takeaway will be that people will start thinking about it and really consider the afterlife. And not to the point where they just want to think about the afterlife period, but how it affects your life now. Because I think it always seems like a surprise when someone dies, or you have to go to a funeral, and it always hits people so hard. But I think the one thing that I've learned when I've been to a funeral is that you start thinking about these things seriously, and you start considering what your life means. So I'm hoping that people will start taking away that they need to start considering these things, and how eternity is a long period of time, but how our life is so short. So where are you going to spend that eternity? And really start considering the important things. And what I was sort of blown away by is how the experts, there was some difference of opinion, but all of them agreed that there is something to consider, and that's where you're going to spend that. So I hope people take that away of anything. They look at that seriously.
Yeah, and I think the reason we don't discuss this and we don't look and examine these things in our lives is really we're motivated by fear, and that is no way to live your life. To be afraid to talk about something, to examine something because you're afraid. And I think for too long there's just been fear around talking about heaven, talking about hell, death, these things, because there are mysterious elements that we just don't know, and no matter how many experts we could compile, they're not going to give us all of the answers. But one thing we do know is that we don't have to fear, and I think that's what this series is also we're hoping to do, is to kind of just take that fear out of these questions so that we really can talk about them and come to a loving God who will answer that eternal question in our heart.
And be reassured that even though we, as you said, Denise, even though we don't have the answers, that it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay not to have all the answers as long as we know where we're going. And I think that's the most important part.
A lot of people just kind of wait and avoid those kind of probing questions, but until something hits close to home to them, whether a loved one passes away or maybe they get
A cancer diagnosis,
diagnosis
or
of
something.
And so, and then they start thinking and wondering, but I'm glad this series can kind of just bring it to the fore right now and say, let's think about this right now, because I love the old song, biblically based, this world is not my home, I'm just kind of passing through. And we need to have that attitude. We need to be thinking about that all the time.
Well, and even what we saw in Italy, with this earthquake, death can happen so suddenly, and sometimes we don't have the comfort of time to really answer those questions. That the choices we do make today do matter, and so that's why we need to be talking about these things so that people can make those choices.
And I think this particular week, Holy Week, leading up to Easter Sunday, is the perfect time of year to be talking about death and heaven and hell, because really, when we bring these issues to the surface, we've got to have some answers. We've got to have some direction. Like you said, Maggie, we're not going to have all the answers, because we just can't absorb all the answers. But at least we have direction, and God provides that direction through the Bible and because of the cross and the empty tomb.
And there's hope too.
Yeah. And I think it'll be exciting this Sunday, after the series is done, and to be able to look at the resurrection in a whole different light and to really see the hope that's in all of this.
Yeah, we're exploring some dark topics, but we're ending on a high note.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
We're going to end on a high note.
Well, we're going to stay with you all week long because we're looking forward to it.
Don't give up on us.
Okay. All right, well, Mike, Maggie, Denise, thank you so much. You
guys.
put a lot of work into
Well
this
done.
week, and I look forward to seeing all of it, and encourage you to encourage others to watch this week, or to go online on our website at crossroads.ca and watch it also. Yeah.
Well, coming up is Carol Kranacki with today's edition of Truth to Go.